Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Oh, hey, Barry, it seems you have obtained the Gomu-Gomu no Mi for some reason. I wonder if that's foreshadowing anything, huh? Probably not. Hey everybody, how you doing? Tekking and Barry here, back again. This will be One Piece chapter 1017. You know, it is so weird, you know, it's just like now hitting me, it's weird to just announce a One Piece chapter in the 1,000 digits, you know? It's been like 17 chapters or so, actually exactly 17 chapters, but still, like, it's weird, right? It's gonna be like, you know, welcome to One Piece chapter 1057. It's just, it's strange. By the way, chapter 1057, stuff's gonna go down on chapter 1057. You take my word for that. All right. So the chapter title is Orders, and of course this is indicating Otama giving the orders to all of the gifters, but what are the orders and what will happen when all the gifters obey these orders? I guess we'll have to wait and see. The cover page is Buggy, basically Lego Buggy. You know, it's basically like Buggy separating his body apart, and like a monkey is putting it back together, except for some reason he's not like with his regular body parts, because Buggy's always been able to like detach his body parts and rearrange them in a bunch of goofy fashions. But in this case, there's like blocks and like circles and I guess spheres and triangles and stuff in his body. Now, it could have just been like an artistic choice, you know, just for the sake of hilarity, but it also makes me think maybe Buggy has learned a little bit more about his Bara Bara no Mi in the past 2 years, and so it's not like an awakening or anything like that, but instead of just separating his body parts, like, you know, taking his hand off and like attacking an enemy, like punching it from a distance away, instead of doing that, he can actually rearrange his body parts and take them apart with different shapes, okay? So kind of like a Lego character, as I said. But anyway, yeah, I don't know if there's like a lot of practicality to this. Like, instead of separating my body and punching you, I could separate my body like a cube and attack you with that. Or I could stab you with a pyramid, like a pyramid segment of his body with a sharp, you know, point, and then attacking the enemy. I don't know. I mean, there's some applications to this, I'm sure. Maybe if he was like walking through a dungeon and there was like a specific like way to get into the next room and he had to be the shape of a square, he could turn himself into a square and like piece by piece pass through the wall. I don't know. I'm just trying to come up with some ideas. Or it could just be there because Oda thought it was funny. I mean, I guess that works too. All right, so we start off right where we left off with Otama. She, you know, Bao Huang was knocked out, so, you know, Usopp's like, you know, go ahead, Otama, you know, relay your orders to the entire live stage, you know, you're live, you know, the intercom system and everything. So Otama goes up, and she's understandably a little bit nervous, and I think we've all been there before. Has anybody ever taken a public speech class? Yeah, they're, you know, you'd think like, you're like, oh, I do this for a living, I talk about One Piece. No, in that public speech class, I was terrified, all right? I messed up constantly. So it's a lot of pressure on Otama right now, right? So she goes up, and, you know, she's like, hello, everyone. My name is Otama. And then as soon as she's like about to give the orders, Queen overhears the conversation because it's on an intercom, and Queen immediately is just like, who the hell's that? What's this brat doing? Where's Bao Huang at? And freaking Otama's just like, oh, I'm sorry. And she like passes out. Now, I don't think that's because Queen used like Conqueror's Hockey or anything like that. Otama is 8, and this is kind of, you know, a really important moment, and, you know, and everything, and she's really nervous. And so, you know, she's like, well, I guess I'll give the orders now. Shut up, you stupid brat! And then she just passes out, right? But it's okay. It's okay, because Nami and Usopp are there to support her, and they get her back up, and she's like, oh, it's okay, Otama, it's okay, you're doing fine, just go ahead, don't worry about him, don't worry about the mean Dino Man, you know, screaming at you to shut up, just go and give the orders, and then that'll literally change the tide of this entire war, okay? And so Otama's like, okay, I think I can try this again. So, as a little bit of a transition here, we cut over to various parts of the battlefield. So we see Jinbe fighting against Who's Who. Don't know why I'm pointing at the Gomu-Gomu no Mi right now, but Jinbe's fighting against Who's Who. Then we cut over to see Frankie fighting Sasaki, and, you know, we don't really see Sasaki, it's just Frankie and the Frankie Shogun kind of being, you know, beaten down. And then we also go over to Inuarashi fighting Jack, and all three of them have in common that there is a lot of the members of the Beast Pirates, okay? Yes, the waiters and the pleasures on the live stage have kind of, you know, changed sides to fight on the rebellion because of the way that Queen acted, but that's only only a small percentage of the total manpower that Kaido had at his disposal, right? So you got, of course, the gifters, the headliners that are the high-ranking soldiers. They're still on the side of the Beast Pirates. You have the other waiters and pleasures that are scattered all over the area. You also have the personal, like, cliques of the Tobiropo. You know, like, Who's Who is, like, his theme is cats because he can turn into a saber-toothed cat, right? And so you have a bunch of people that are dressed like cats that are around him that are, like, his personal crew. It was stated that Sasaki and Who's Who, it was actually, I think, confirmed that all the members of the Tobiropo used to be the captains of their own individual crews, and then they joined up with Kaido and became Tobiropos, right? They were all former captains. I guess the exception is with Ulti and Page One because they were brother and sister. Maybe they were like dual captains or something, or maybe Ulti was the captain and like Page One was her first mate or something like that. But they were all, you know, they all had their own crews before this. So the point is, there's a lot of fighting power here, and they're kind of overwhelmed. So it's not just a one-on-one fight here with Jinbe going up against Who's Who, because yeah, Jinbe and Who's Who, they'll have a brawl every now and then, but then, you know, freaking some of the gifters will pop up with rifles and guns and shoot at Jinbe. And so Jinbe's fighting Who's Who, and he also has to be blocking bullets from all these other directions. He's like, damn it, just bam, bam, and then Who's fighting him. It's like, oh. And you know, it's the same thing with Frankie and with Inuarashi, right? Frankie's in the Frankie Shogun fighting against a giant Triceratops, but then all of a sudden some other people will come out of the woodwork and attack him, so he has to be like firing bullets at the Triceratops and like change his direction and fire the bullets over there to, you know, bring him down. It's just like these constant waves of opponents, and I wonder if that is foreshadowing anything. I don't know. I guess we'll have to find out. And we're going to find out right now, actually. Okay, so with the encouragement of Nami and Usopp, like, you could do it, Otama! Otama gets up there, Queen is still, you know, yelling at her, you know, shut up, you know, where's Bao Huang at and everything, you know, no one wants to hear what a brat has to say, but Otama perseveres. She goes for it, and she says her order. She commands all of the gifters in the entirety of Onigashima, everybody that can hear her, you will now fight on the side of Luffy and Momonosuke, and we're gonna all work together to take Kaido down! And she announces these orders, and you know what? This is still a little while away before we're going to get this in the anime, right? This is a while off. In the anime, actually, this is great, because there's a lot of Jinbe-centered things in this chapter later on, and then the episode we just got with the anime that was just released this week was the introduction of Jinbe after he just destroyed one of Kaido's ships as he arrived at Onigashima. Okay, so this is a very Jinbe-centered week right now, and it's a good thing his poster doesn't fall down anymore. Yeah, you go, Jinbe. Helmsman. Okay, so at any rate, I would imagine in the anime right now, as soon as Otama gives those orders, the way she phrases it is like, you are on the side of Luffy and Momonosuke, you are going to help them, and then by extension of that, we're all going to work together to take down Kaido. She specifically says, taking down Kaido is now the gifters, all the gifters that ate the Kibidongos, that is their sole objective, okay? Now remember, it's not like 100% like brainwashing, okay? It's not like she's manipulating them like Shinso's quirk from My Hero Academia or anything like that. The gifters still have their own personalities, and they still have the knowledge that they have. So it's just that they have to obey whatever order that Otama gives. And so from their perspective, it's like, okay, I know that, like, let's say I'm Briscola. I'm the guy that has the giant gorilla for an arm. It's like, I'm Briscola. I'm a gifter. I'm one of the headliners on the Beast Pirates. Oh yeah, I'm fighting against the rebellion. That's the samurai, and that's Luffy and Kid and Law's crews. Momonosuke, I'm gonna make sure to capture Momonosuke and personally deliver him to Kaido. I might get a promotion. And then eat the Kibidongo, get the order. He's like, you will work for Momo and Luffy now. We're gonna take down Kaido. Be like, oh, wait a second. I'm actually working for the rebellion. Yeah, go Momonosuke. I'm gonna make sure that kid becomes the next shogun. Screw you, Kaido! Bam! Doesn't have to make any sense or logic, but it's just like, it goes on their knowledge that they have, right? So, I just want in the anime, as soon as she gives those orders, for like dead silence. Dead silence everywhere, okay, on the battlefield. As all of the gifters receive this order. Just like... And then, after about a 5-6 second just dead silence, all hell breaks loose. That's what I want to happen, okay? So all hell breaks loose. The gifters receive their order. We have brief scenes where we see Luffy and Momonosuke and what they're up to right now as Otama is giving that order. We see Luffy, we assume he's inside of the polar tang, he's inside of the submarine. Maybe they landed on shore, maybe they're on the coast doing this, but I'm assuming they dragged him into the submarine, maybe they're on the surface, and they're giving him chest compressions, okay? And so Luffy's spitting up all the water that he has in his lungs. Okay, so he's going to be saved. Jean Bart is there. It's just some random member of the Heart crew that's giving him the chest compressions. It'd be funny if it was Jean Bart, if he's like, damn it, Straw Hat, live! Bam! Bam! Live, damn you! He's like, Jean Bart, you're being too rough. He's made of rubber, he'll be fine! Bam! You know, and the water just like springs out of him like a damn fire hydrant. But no, they're doing that. And then you cut over to Momonosuke and Shinobu. Shinobu is holding Momonosuke, who is bawling his eyes out like, we were so high up, I thought we were gonna die. So they're clearly, he says we were high up, so it implies they're now safely on the ground. We don't know how they landed. There was a while there where I was thinking it was gonna be Shinobu's power, but then a lot of people said, oh, wait a second, Momonosuke can fly, you know, he can use his cloud power. So it might have been that, but Momonosuke is in human form, so he fell when he was in human form, and they landed when he was in human form. So I feel like Shinobu was the one that actually cushioned the fall. I feel like either Shinobu used her mature powers to like cushion the fall, like decay the earth, and so it was soft when they landed, or also Shinobu has a kite. That's another thing too. She has this really cool kite that she can fly around on, and she did that with Nami as well. So yeah, there's a few ways they could have gotten down without dying, but yeah, Momonosuke is still very clearly shaken by that, so I don't think he was the one that, you know, turned into a dragon and used his cloud powers. He was very scared, but they're alive. They're alive. Not to say that anyone thought they were gonna die, but they're alive. Okay. So, now we cut to Speed, and Speed is very happy. Of course, Speed was already taking orders from Otama, so she's like, oh good, Otama finally delivered her orders. Now let's take down Kaido properly, okay? And so now we see all of the gifters all over Onigashima just raising hell, okay? So Briscola turns on all of his subordinates, starts attacking all of them. You know, you have to understand that, yeah, there are a lot of pleasures and waiters around like foot soldiers, but like a single gifter would probably be able to take down several dozen, if not maybe close to 100 of these foot soldiers. You know, if it's like Briscola or, who was the other one? There was that woman that also had a gorilla smile. But anyway, yeah, if you have like a really strong animal at your disposal, you could just like beat down and just destroy a bunch of like the riffraff, like the waiters and pleasures and everything like that, right? Hamlet, the dude that has, he's basically the giraffe's head on the body. Okay, so he's fighting against all the other members. You also have Poker, who's on the 4th floor. And Poker's actually the one that shows up where Jinbe's fighting. Okay, so Jinbe's fighting against Who's Who on the 4th floor at the Cat Cafe, Who's Who's domain. And then you have Poker, who was the rattlesnake smile user that Luffy never actually had a chance to fight. That was the dude that was on the stairwell, I think, from the 3rd to 4th floor, and Luffy was on the 3rd floor, and he's like, oh, okay, well, Straw Hat Luffy has to come up these stairs eventually, so then I'll get him. I'll bite him with my venom, and I'll kill him. And then Luffy figured out another way around it. He's like, oh, here's a ladder. You could take this up to the 5th floor and just skip the 4th floor entirely. And Jinbe stayed on the 4th floor to fight against Who's Who, but then Poker was just like, what? This sucks. Where are they? You know? So Poker shows up and attacks Who's Who's minions. Okay, so now it can be just a proper one-on-one fight for everybody. So Jinbe 1v1 Who's Who, Frankie and Sasaki, and then Inuarashi, and then Jack. All right? And keep in mind, once again, it was already confirmed, but I got some questions of it this week. Otama's ability does not work on regular zone users. Whether or not they're zones, or ancient zones, or mythical zones, it only works on the Smile users. And Oda even confirmed this a little bit more when he talked about the differences between Smiles and actual Devil Fruits in the most recent SBS 99, where he basically described the process of making Smiles is you gotta make Sad. Sad, we don't know what it stands for, is basically just the combination of the lineage factor of various animals mixed together with some kind of chemistry sludge in a giant vat, and then you take that and you plant it in the ground and it grows into trees cultivated by the Tontadas. That's what the plant was, the factory on Dressrosa was for, and then 1 out of every 10 of those fruits that the tree bears will have the power of a random animal in that kind of like chemical sludge soup that Caesar created, right? So they're actual animals. You're taking the DNA from real animals apples, mixing it together and turning them into devil fruits, okay? Which is different from like actual devil fruits, okay? Because it's like a completely different kind of process, okay? So that's why it works here in this instance. But yeah, so this is pretty much the best case scenario they could have hoped for, but it is also, by that extension, it is the limit of what Otama can really do. All right, there might be some other gifters that haven't consumed the dango yet, so maybe they can fill out that gap a bit. But when it comes to the Tobi-Roppo, when it comes to the All-Stars and Kaido himself, there's really nothing you can do to have an easy victory button like pressed, kind of like what they did with the gifters here, right? And it's actually something really cool, because if we go with the logic that once you consume a dango and then Otama gives you an order, if there's no real time limit there, if you're just under her spell for the rest of your life until she, I guess, gives you the order, you no longer have to listen to me, maybe that. But if that's the case, then this is actually going to really help, you know, rebuilding all of Wano Kuni, right? Because after this is all over, you know, Kaido's been defeated, but you have a bunch of these beast pirates, these really strong gifters that are working for Tama, and by extension, you know, the samurai and everything. So they might, you know, actually aid in the rebuilding of the country after this is all over and everything, like Speed and Hold'em and Babanuki and Daifugo and everybody, Poker, you know. So yeah, that's really interesting. Oh wait, I get it. All of the gifters are named after card games. I got it. Yeah, that was funny. That was a trick, Oda. You know, I didn't know that I could figure that out, but I did. All right. So, yeah, we just see a bunch of scenes with the gifters just, you know, like rebelling and going crazy there. We cut back over to the live stage. We see the CP0 very briefly. They just look, you know, well, as confused as the CP0 could. They're wearing the masks. They actually haven't really figured out exactly what's happening yet. They're just hanging out in their reception room and they just hear the commotion and they're like, you know, sir, it's chaos, absolute chaos. You know, the gifters are fighting against their own men. And just so the CP0 just like question mark. Like, and that's all we get from them. But I imagine they're gonna open up the window and look outside, like, oh, what's going on now? And they just like kick the go board over and just like, this means nothing anymore, screw it, we don't even know what's happening now, right? But we see the live stage. Queen is dumbfounded about what's happening, but Queen kind of figures it out that it's probably something to do with Otama, because they all started working for the rebellion as soon as Otama gave the order for the rebellion. So Queen is not an idiot. Queen does figure it out, like, oh, it's probably some kind of devil fruit shenanigans or something. Okay, in that case, I just have to kill Otama and then the effect will end. So he fires off a laser, or he's about to fire a laser at Otama. That's when Sanji shows up and boom! You know, Collier shot right in his face, Diable Jinbe, so it gets him knocked down. The blast, you know, misses. And then now you have Usopp and Nami like, okay, good job, Otama. Otama is just like after giving a big speech in a public speech class or something, right? I think the final exam, so to speak, that we had to do in my college, like, you know, public speaking class, I think it was like a 10 to 15 minute long, like, speech we had to give over something. I don't remember what the topic of mine was. I did give one on anime once. I did give an anime speech once, yeah. Oddly enough, I used anime footage from Fairy Tail of all choices. I picked Fairy Tail, but yeah. Anyway, that was like a 15-minute speech, and it was like something I would stress out about constantly for the, you know, the weeks and days leading up to it. And then that day I was so nervous. It was like my first class. It was like 8:30 in the morning. But after I finished the speech, after I was done, I was like, oh, this huge sense of relief just washes over you. I imagine that's what Otama is like. Okay, it's over. I did what I was supposed to do. The rebellion is underway. Okay, good. Now Usopp and Nami need to make sure they get her somewhere safe. Best case scenario, they would actually take her off the island somehow, but considering that's floating, you know, it's going to be kind of difficult. Maybe you can go hide somewhere in the back storage shed, like where Yamato and Momonosuke and Shinobu were staying. Somewhere safe. They got to keep her safe because I guess if she gets knocked out, like that already happened with Ulti, the effect did not end, but she obviously cannot die. So yeah, they have to keep her somewhere safe. And Usopp and Nami might just be hanging out next to Otama to make sure that happens. You know, they might, you know, maybe they can put her somewhere safe, but like I think it's best to like stay with her and make sure that, you know, nobody tries to kill her now, okay? Because everybody that's not controlled by her that figures this out, if Queen can somehow figure out a way to relay this information to the other members of the Tobi-Roppo or the All-Stars or something, like, hey, it's that kid that's the one that's controlling everybody. If you can eliminate her, then everything will go back to normal and we can win this. If Queen can relay that information somehow, because he's like the only one that really knows, knows at the moment, that would be very dangerous. So yeah, just Usopp and Nami keep Otama safe, okay? So back to Sanji, he kicks freaking Queen right in the side of the face, and he's like, oh, Judge's son again, that's just freaking great. And then Sanji's like, you know what, I'm tired of this. I don't even want to hear that guy's name anymore. I don't even want to hear the name Judge or Judgy or however you say it. I don't care. I don't want to hear his name, right? And it's like, what do you even, like, how do you even know him? Are you like part of his mad scientist group or something? And then Queen is just like, what are you talking about? You mean Mads? You know, Mad TV, Mad Magazine? Yeah, well, back in the day, I was an editor for that magazine. Me and Judge, back in the early 90s, man, we were writing for Mad Magazine. You know, we had really the funniest stuff there. It's kind of gone downhill since then, but yeah, that's in the past, though. That's all behind me. Anyway, you're his son, right? Okay, so Mads, from what we understand, is the name of this mad scientist group. Oh, I get it. Okay. Oda with the puns. Okay. So, yeah, that's probably honestly why it is called that. Mads, mad scientists. Vegapunk, you know, often is referred to as a mad scientist. You know, same thing with Queen and Judge. They are definitely meeting the descriptions of mad scientists. Judge is literally making a clone army to try to take over the North Blue. If that is not a mad scientist resume, I don't know what is, okay? But anyway, yeah. So way back in the day, we're probably talking like, you know, Queen was obviously working for the Beast Pirates 20 years ago when Odin was killed, you know, and if Judge is 55 years old right now, I like to think Queen is around that same age. So I'm thinking probably this is something from when Queen was like late teens, early 20s. So we're probably dialing the clock back to at least 30 years ago, but it might be even further than that, right? And so Vegapunk was probably the lead scientist of this group, not allied with the world government yet. Maybe it was on Karakuri Island where Vegapunk was from. Maybe his laboratory that Frankie lived at for 2 years was like the home base of Mads. And so they all worked in there, and that's when they cracked the lineage factor, or DNA, and they figured out how to do all this stuff. The world government busted them. This actually might have not have been too long after God Valley. God Valley was 38 years ago. If this happened around 30 years ago, maybe it was after God Valley, and maybe that's when all the dragons got wiped out or something, and that's when the world government needed some scientists to help them. They found out about this group, Mads, so they busted up that operation. Vegapunk went to go work for the world government. Artificial devil fruits, artificial dragons, you know, the sea prism stone research, all that kind of stuff. Queen and Judge managed to escape somehow. Maybe that was part of the bargain. Maybe Vegapunk was like, all right, fine, I'll go work for you guys, the world government, but leave my apprentices alone, or leave them out of this, okay? And then they got like a pardon to leave. Judge went back to the Germa Kingdom, used lineage factor for clone tech. Queen went and joined up with Kaido and used that lineage factor knowledge for the viruses, like the Isoni and everything like that. That really messes with your DNA, okay? So a lot of this stuff is conjecture, and we're not really sure, but, you know, this is definitely, at least we have a name for the group right now. Oda's really a fan of the capital letter names of groups, right? So we have Mads, we have Sword, we have the Rocks crew, all capital letters. We have CP0, a lot of capital letter names in One Piece there, right? So, yeah, Mads, he name drops the name of the organization, but he says that's ancient history, that was a long time ago, so we'll find out more about that maybe as their fight continues. The funny thing is, there's a next scene where Queen goes into his hybrid form, okay? So he transforms into his hybrid Brachiosaur form, but also he has his cyborg enhancements, right? So his right arm, his right arm is holding his sword. His left arm is like a claw, you know, that comes out like kind of like a dragon claw, you know, like Sabo's dragon claw technique. It's like a mechanical, like, you know, like pincer, like, and then he has his tail, his Brachiosaur tail coming out of him that also has that like pincer kind of like attachment on the end of it, right? And it's funny because he transforms into this cyborg dinosaur man, and he's like, all right, you know, son of Judge, Sanji, I'll level with you. Turns out I'm a cyborg. And Sanji's just like, yeah, no shit! You were firing lasers! You were stretching your neck around! Obviously you were a cyborg! That was not a secret, but okay. Queen's like, alright, I guess I'll level with you. Turns out I'm a human that ate the Brachiosaur fruit, becoming a dinosaur human who's also a cyborg. Therefore, in my hybrid form, I'm a human dinosaur cyborg. Sanji's just like, can we fight now? You know, it's like, okay, can we fight? Can I kick your ass? You know, whatever, all right. So that's the scene with them. Sanji shouts over to Chopper, just kind of like, hey Chopper, you gonna be okay to heal Zoro while I deal with this dino cyborg person or whatever? And then we cut over to Chopper. Alright, this is great because I have my Chopper Funko Pop right here. This is now actual size, okay? So the effects of the new and improved Neo Rumble Ball, if you want to call it that, the one that Caesar helped work on, have ended, alright? So the 30 minutes is up, and now we get to see the after effects, the negative, the downside that Caesar was discussing, okay? So Chopper has now shrunk down to about the size of this Funko Pop. Tristan, who was the squirrel nurse mink, you know, the assistant of Miyagi, the goat doctor, is now literally holding Chopper in her hands, okay? And she's like an average height, like, kind of person, and so she's just holding Chopper like this, okay? He's still wearing his samurai helmet, which is now so big, it's basically covering up his entire body, and so we have baby Chopper, or chibi Chopper, except he also speaks like an old man. So, you have a scene where she's holding Chopper in her hands, and Chopper's, like, talking to Miyagi, like, how darn you have that medicine that there can fix up Zoro? I didn't know you had something like that. You know, I'm talking more, you know, more like 1880s grizzled prospector as an old man. He's like, you kids these days with your fancy hyper-regeneration medicines. Back in my day, we had to use the Dragon Balls for such a thing. You know. So he looks like a little chibi Chopper, but he talks like an old man, like Kaku basically talked, right? Okay. So I think Oda's just having fun with this. Oda's sitting there at his desk. I want you to imagine the process that came to this conclusion. Oda's sitting there. It's like, all right, Chopper's going to have an upgrade to his Rumble Ball. He'll be able to stay in the form for 30 minutes now. He's fighting stronger opponents. That I have to do that, right? But in order to do that, there has to be some sort of drawback, right? Maybe Oda remembered the time when, remember way back in the pre-time skip, when whenever Luffy went into his Gear 3rd, the downside of Gear 3rd was he became Chibi Luffy? Yeah, we haven't seen Chibi Luffy since the time skip, but maybe Oda was like, I miss drawing Chibi Luffy. You know what? Let me draw Chibi Chopper. So he shrinks, but maybe to make it a little bit different than Luffy's, is like, you know what? I'm going to make him shrink down to a Chibi, but then I'm going to make him talk like an 88-year-old man. Alright, cool. That works. Makes sense? Not really, but it's One Piece. You know, and so that's what we got. We have, and he even gets an official, like, title card introduction. Baby Gramps Chopper. Side effect of the upgraded Rumble Ball, okay? So, it doesn't really go more into detail on that. Miyagi is just talking to Chopper like normal, but that's the downside. How long does this last? I do not know. It might be a one-to-one kind of thing. 30 minutes in Monster Point equal 30 minutes of, you know, how dare you kids get off my lawn? You know, like it might be that, I don't know. Okay. But the point is, Miyagi, the goat doctor from Zou, has a special medicine that the minks developed. See where we're going with this? A special medicine, a hyper-regeneration medicine, that when you give it to somebody, all their wounds will be healed wicked fast, but with the downside that after the effect wears off, they'll have double the amount of pain that they initially had. Yeah, this has been used before a lot in anime. This is a common cliche. Okay, so Zoro obviously is like, you know, screw it, give it to me. You know, I can't fight like this at all. Just give me the medicine already. Yeah, I'm fine, whatever. I need to fight the giant pteranodon still, okay? So they give Zoro the medicine. We don't see the effects, but Zoro's like, give it to me, I don't care. And so it's implied that they're gonna give it to him. Chopper is just kind of like, why didn't you tell us about that medicine before, Miyagi? And Miyagi's just like, actually he doesn't really answer. He's just like, well, it's really dangerous, so I thought, you know. Okay, so there's a few problems with this. Like, I feel like, and I've read some comments about this, people like responding to this kind of like sort of Deus Ex Machina out of nowhere. Like, the minks had this hyper-regeneration medicine all the time. There's other ways you could have done this. I think that would have made a lot more sense. There's two in particular. So one of them is, you could have had it just been some kind of medicine that Chopper himself developed, okay? Chopper trained for 2 years at the Torino Kingdom, studying all those random, like, herbs and, you know, developing all those kinds of medicine. Even Miyagi, I think, was the one that mentioned when Chopper was at Zou helping all the minks out, Miyagi mentioned, like, oh, the medical technology of the Drum Kingdom, which is renowned for its famous doctors, combined with the rare herbs and spices from the Torino Kingdom, you managed to create so many different kinds of medicine. And Chopper's like, oh, you silly, I'm just a regular doctor. You know, but there's a lot of options there. It would not be such a far cry to say. And then Caesar was helping Chopper with the freaking Rumble Ball tech. So you had Drum Kingdom expertise, Torino Kingdom, plus Caesar Clown Master Chemist helping you out. Would it be that much of a far cry to say that Chopper, with a combination of all those things, figured out some way to develop a hyper-regenerative medicine? But he didn't want to give it to the Straw Hats because it's super dangerous. It was literally like last-ditch effort, their trump card, only used in absolute dire emergencies. Okay, and that's the reason Chopper never used it up until this point, because he had faith in his friends. You know, this is really dangerous stuff. This is like, it'll heal you, but oh man, the kickback from this is big time, okay? So if Chopper had this medicine out of nowhere, and it doesn't work on everything, like it wouldn't have worked on the Isonies or anything like that, like it only works on like physical injuries, maybe that's, like it literally just hyper-regenerates your body. Like if you have a broken bone, your cells will like heal the wound immediately or whatever like that, but it wouldn't work on like viruses or diseases or anything that Queen had up his sleeve, okay? So it was just like physical injuries only, okay? That would have made more sense, I think. And another way people have been taking this, I like this option too, Marco. Marco is still there, and Marco's actually fighting against King right now, who we assume Zoro is going to fight after he heals up. So what if it was a thing like Marco's getting beaten down by King, and Marco hits the ground, and he's really winded and he's really injured and he's not really sure if he's going to be able to beat King. Maybe King has an awakening, King has some other tricks up his sleeve, you know, maybe involving his species, whatever he turns out to be. And so Marco's on the ground kind of beaten down, and then he sees Zoro all bandaged up, and he's like, you know, Zoro, I have this technique I can use with my Phoenix Fruit. I can basically heal all your wounds at once. There's going to be a big after effect, but I can basically heal all your wounds at once. But if I do that, like my flames will die out. Like I won't be, not die, it's not like the Oppi Oppi, you know what I mean? But like I won't be able to fight anymore if I use this ability. I'll use up a bunch of my blue fire to heal you, and then I'll probably be passed out. Because Zoro was very, very injured. It was like 20 plus something bones that he broke. Probably a lot of them were very critical bones. I don't think he just broke his fingers. I think he broke his hands, his arms, his legs, you know, his ribs. Probably every single one of his ribs are cracked, you know. So it's like, I can use my blue Phoenix fire to restore you, the regeneration flames, but like it's gonna hurt, and tomorrow it's gonna hurt like hell, and I'm not gonna be able to help you anymore. Zoro could be like, yeah, let's do this. He's like, all right, flame up. I'm back, you know, and then he goes and fight, and then Marco's like, good luck to you, passing the torch. Like, no, quite literally passing the torch, right? I think that would have made more sense given that Marco's ability is literally restorative in nature, and that Chopper has all this medical knowledge. Just the Minx having this out of nowhere, that was never mentioned up until this point. I feel like there's other ways that you could have done it. But at any rate, regardless if through Marco or Chopper or the Minx and Miyagi, Zoro is going to get healed really quick. He's going to get the power back. He's going to go fight against King, probably. I don't even know if we're going to get the after effects of this, because that's like the same thing that happened with Luffy at Marineford when he's like, you know, asking Ivankov to give him another dose of the adrenaline, and Ivankov's like, if I keep just giving you doses of adrenaline, it's not going to last as long, and you're going to be in a massive amount of pain tomorrow. Luffy's like, I don't care, I need to save Ace, and he's like, all right, have it your own damned way, and then boom, stabs Luffy, gets the adrenaline burst. But we never saw the downside because Luffy got, you know, knocked out. He was in a coma for like 3 weeks anyway, so it didn't even really matter in that one particular instance. Might be something like that with Zoro. I don't know. So, Zoro's going to be healed up. We don't see him, but he's going to be. Alright, so now we cut over to the last scene of the chapter. We see Jinbe fighting against Who's Who, finally one-on-one, and this is where Who's Who starts busting out some more unique techniques, okay? So the first thing he does is he takes out, we thought it was actually his sword. It's a dagger. I don't know if this is like he still has his regular sword, because it looks like an actual sword, like a katana, right? He might still have that, but it looks like in this panel, he takes it out, and it only goes to, like, here. You know, like, it's, like, not even, like, a wakizashi or a tanto or anything. It's literally, like, a dagger, okay? And so he pulls out this dagger from his scabbard, and then he uses a variation of the Shigan technique, the finger pistol technique from the Rokushiki, but his variation is with a knife, and it's called blade pistol. So he's firing off like Shigans using a bladed weapon, which seems like a pretty obvious thing, but maybe it takes a lot more skill to do that. So he fires off a bunch of these like really razor-sharp blade pistols at Jinbe. Jinbe uses his arabesque brick fist, boom, and then sends out the shockwaves, and that like disperses the attacks, so he doesn't get hit by that. Who's Who follows that up with a tempest kick, you know, a rankyaku technique, and so he goes to slice Jinbe. Jinbe hockeys up his arm, and he blocks the attack. At the same time, he pushes Who's Who's back, and Who's Who's not injured from his hockey, so Jinbe kind of like guesses that he's also using Tekkai. He's using his iron body as well. So basically what Who's Who just did there was an upgraded form of the Shigan, the finger pistol, into the blade pistol, and then he combined Tekkai, iron body, into his leg, as he used a rankyaku to add more impact. Now, Jinbe's not really injured from any of these moves. He was able to disperse the blade pistol, and he was able to block the Tekkai and rankyaku technique with his haki. However, Jinbe realizes at this moment, all right, you're using Rokushiki. That's the technique. That's like the martial arts that only government agents and like some Marines know. So I'm finally starting to piece together who exactly you are, Who's Who. Exactly, I'm Who's Who. No, I mean like who you are, like actually, like exactly, Who's Who. It's written on my chest, I got a tattoo. I'm like, yes, I understand, but Who's Who are you, Who's Who? Okay, now you're just not making any sense, man. But anyway, yeah. And so Jinbe says, you know, I remember this old story. Oh, man, it must be like, must be about 12 years ago now. You know, there was a government agent that actually got arrested by the world government and got thrown in jail. And then he escaped at some point. I'm thinking that might be you. Now, few things here. Number one, he doesn't specifically say impel down, he just says jail. However, considering Who's Who knows about Jinbe, it's possible that Who's Who was in level 6 the same time Jinbe was very briefly. When Blackbeard broke in, you know, Who's Who managed to take that opportunity to escape. The only problem with that is that only gives us really 2 years there for Who's Who to maybe start his own pirate crew in the New World and then get discovered by Kaido and then join the Tobi Roppo. Not impossible, but that might be a completely different way that, well, I'll continue. Okay, so further than that, Who's Who says that like, yeah, that's an old story. I used to be a member of CP9 back in the day. So already that's big lore drop right there. But he also says, you know, we've never actually made contact, but I knew about you. Now, Jinbe became a warlord 11 years ago, all right? That was, right, I think it was 12 years ago that everything happened with Koala and the Sun Pirates and Fisher Tiger died about 12 years ago. It was 11 years ago that Jinbe became a warlord and that whole arrangement was made, like, you know, Arlong was released from prison. That stuff happened 11 years ago. So just the fact that Who's Who was a member of the world government, he probably knew about Jinbe, maybe a little bit before he became a warlord, but, you know, that's not really too important. We thought that, you know, the Jinbe Who's Who relationship was going to be like a big deal, like they fought each other in their past or something. No. Who's Who directly says, you know, oh, you have no idea who I am. We've never really had an interaction before this, but I know about you, okay? So he goes on to say that, you know, oh, and by the way, he transforms into his hybrid saber-toothed cat form, okay? So he's really huge. I thought it was actually going to be kind of like Rob Lucci when he uses the life return, where he's like more slim, you know, but he's like he kind of is Rob Lucci, and he even mentions Rob Lucci in this chapter, like, you know, people kind of put us up there as kind of equals, you know, like I'm a rival to the genius Rob Lucci. He says that, you know, life kind of worked out for me. I'm happy where I'm at right now on Kaido's crew as a member of the Tobi Roppo and trying to get that all-star position. But I won't lie, I had it pretty rough for a while there. You know, people used to call me equals to Rob Lucci. Now, 12 years ago, Rob Lucci would have been 18 years old. He's 30 right now, so he would have been 18 years old. He was already part of, I don't know if he was part of CP9 back then, but he was already performing, you know, jobs for the world government. He was 13 years old when he did that massacre at that island where he wiped out like 500, you know, pirates and the hostages and everything. He was 13 when that happened, so that was kind of the first tell that he was going to be really strong, okay? So 12 years ago, Rob Lucci was 18, and Who's Who's right now is 38, so he would have been 26. All right, So you might say Rob Lucci is this rising like prodigy, like genius in the government. Meanwhile, Who's Who is already like an established like great fighter and like a genius, okay? And he uses another variation of the Shigan technique called Fang Pistol. So this is actually really cool. He literally is in his hybrid form as a saber-toothed cat with these giant teeth, and he bites the air, and it sends out literally an image of his teeth, like his jaw like shoots out. Think of like Arlong's technique where Arlong took out his teeth and used them as weapons. Think of that, except it's like actually launching as like an energy attack where he's like Fang Pistol, roar, and then it just fires off. Jinbe like effortlessly dodges it. It doesn't look like that big of a deal for Jinbe to dodge it, but then there's a pillar behind him, and then just like with Arlong, the fangs hit the pillar and just took a bite out of it. It honestly kind of reminds me of in Toriko, the Feast of the Four Kings, the Oshoku Basan technique, which is like just a ball that just incinerates and completely annihilates anything in its path. Kind of like that, or like Midoriya's Hungry Tongue or whatever from Toriko, right? It's just anything it hits just gets obliterated out of existence. That's kind of the Fang Pistol. So Jinbe goes on to say, yeah, you are really skilled. I can see why people would compare you with Rob Lucci. You're using variations of the Rokushiki, the 6 powers that are like whole other levels. That actually started to make me think like, you know, the Rokushiki are kind of not that impressive anymore because now we have Haki and Devil Fruits and Awakens and all of Luffy's gears and everything, and, you know, all of Zoro's really cool sword techniques. The Rokushiki don't really seem that impressive anymore. But then I just started to realize, you know, the base Rokushiki, the 6 powers at a fundamental level, that's just like maybe introductory stuff. Like just learning the basics, and then you as your own person have to develop, you know, more like variations of those techniques, right? Now the CP9 did have variations. They had like regular Tekkai. They also had Tekkai Go, which is like a strong variation of that. Rob Lucci had a bunch of different variations of Shigan. You know, and Who's Who here is using a blade version of Shigan and a fang version of Shigan. You know, so that's what it is. It's like the CP teaches you like here's how the basic way to use the Rokushiki, but then you have to add on to that. The more advanced techniques are kind of your own, you know what I mean? So think of it like that. We might actually see some Rokushiki techniques in new forms. Even like Sanji's Skywalk might be superior to Geppo, you know? Yeah, just in certain ways. So final scene of the chapter, though, kind of getting away from the Rokushiki stuff and the connection with Jinbe, Who's Who explains the reason why he was in jail to begin with. And this is a huge piece of lore. A lot of people were freaking out over this, me included. So, 12 years ago, Who's Who was given the order to escort a certain object. Where was he escorting the object from and to? We do not know, but we know the object was none other than the Gomu-Gomu no Mi. Allow me to take you back in time a bit. Let's dial that clock back to Chapter 1 of One Piece, Romance Dawn, that's right. Or you can go back and watch the episode of East Blue, because that's probably the most modern version of that story with the updated animation and stuff like that, and also it's very abridged as well. So, Shanks, about 12 years ago, he was 27, he was staying at Fuchsia Village. Now, he mentioned to Luffy at that point that the red-haired pirates, so him, Ben Beckman, Yasop, Lucky Roo, everybody had been staying at Fuchsia for about a year, almost a year, which makes me think that about 13 years ago is when Shanks actually arrived at Fuchsia. He called it his home base, okay? Now, they were all hanging out, having a party at Party's Bar, Makino's bar. They were getting drunk, they were having a good time. That's when Higama, the mountain bandit, showed up, and he wrecked the place and knocked Shanks down and everything, and Shanks is like, it's not a big deal, what are you gonna do? You know, that's just a minor thing, you know, we're no use in getting all busted up about it. While that commotion was going on, though, while Higama was, you know, causing chaos in the bar, Luffy looked over at a chest that was sitting on the counter that contained the Gomu-Gomu no Mi. Luffy eats it, he becomes a rubber kid, and Shanks and all the rest of the red-haired pirates freak out. Lucky Roo grabs a tablet, and he's like, "Oh, Luffy, is this what you ate?" And Luffy's like, yeah, it tasted really bad, though. And he's like, "What?" He's like, "We stole this from our enemy." And if you go back and look at the chapter, it is literally just enemy. Oda does not specify, "We stole this from a Yonko, we stole this from a pirate, we stole this from a marine, we stole this from a government agent." He doesn't say any of that. He just says, "We stole this from our enemies," right? that makes me think, like, Oda maybe back then didn't know. Maybe Oda did not know how it was all going to go exactly like this, but he's like, back then, he's like, you know, there might be a time when I want to delve into the backstory of the Gomu-Gomu no Mi, and maybe I should leave it kind of ambiguous. So instead of specifying a person where they got it from, I'll just say the enemy of the red hair pirates. And so that could mean anything. That could be other pirates, that could be the Yonko, that could be a Marine, that could be a CP9, whatever. Okay, we didn't even know about the CP9 back then. This is chapter 1. So what we can understand here is, while Shanks was having Fuchsia be his hometown, the Red Hair Pirates still went around. I mean, they didn't stay in Fuchsia for the entire year and just never leave. They probably, like, you know, lived there as their home base, but they also sailed around every once in a while, right? Well, one of the times they were sailing around, also probably in the east, for some reason, Who's Who was escorting the Gomu-Gomu no Mi, probably to Marineford or Marijois or whatever, and the Red Hair Pirates found them, and they attacked them, and Who's Who was not killed, obviously, but he failed to, you know, save the Gomu-Gomu no Mi. Maybe Shanks' crew fired a cannonball, it blew the Gomu-Gomu no Mi off of the ship, and they managed to grab it, and then they tried to fight back, but then, you know, the Shanks got away before they could do anything about it, right? And so because he failed to guard the Gomu-Gomu no Mi, this was such a big deal to the world government, they threw their top CP9 agent into prison, probably impaled down, probably level 6. And then he escaped at one point, okay? Or if not impaled down, maybe like some top secret jail for like government officials at Marineford or at Marijois. Maybe some kind of jail, because impaled down is not actually mentioned by name. I feel like it would have been if it was impaled down. Anyway, so the chapter ends with Who's Who lamenting the fact that, like, you know, Jinbe, when you announced yourself as the helmsman of the Straw Hat crew, all those horrible memories flooded back. Because 2 years ago, when Straw Hat Luffy rose to prominence, he had the Gomu-Gomu no Mi, the fruit 12 years ago I failed to protect. Boom! End of chapter. And it also mentions, as like the sidebar, it says, you know, a fruit the government itself wanted to protect. Okay? Which implies a few things. And I'll be definitely making a video about this tomorrow, so don't worry about that. This will be a follow-up. But that implies the government wanted this for some reason. Okay? Like the Gomu-Gomu no Mi is very, very important, beyond just having the ability to turn you into rubber, okay? So that brings up a bunch of questions. Who was the previous user of the Gomu-Gomu no Mi? How did the government come across the Gomu-Gomu no Mi? They sent, maybe the Gomu-Gomu no Mi was found in the east by a branch of Cypher Pole, like Cypher Pole 2 found it in the east, and they relayed it back to the government, and they're like, oh shit, we need to get that right now. CP2, you're not cut out for the task. We're gonna send our best, the best agent they had to the, like, out in the sticks of the freaking East Blue, and we're going to take this out, and we're going to bring it back to the world government, right? And then Who's Who failed because he fought against the red hair crew, right? So yeah, there are some questions here. There are a lot. And the fact that he failed to protect this, even though such an asset that Who's Who was, he's like, no, this was a monumental blunder. You messed up entirely. We needed this, and you got rid of it. You lost it. You're going in jail. You're done. One mistake was enough for the world government. That would be like if Rob Lucci literally got the shit beat out of him by Luffy, let Nico Robin get away, then him and the rest of the CP9 agents defected from the world government, actively said, one day we'll be back to get our vengeance. I just did a video about this last week, and that was before we even knew about this. But he's like, one day I will be back for my vengeance. And they sail away. 2 years later, they're members of CP0, for God's sakes now. They were able to get a pardon. They were able to be forgiven. Who's Who messed up so monumentally with this thing that it's like, no second chances. You're done. There was a theory for a long time that Roger had the Gomu-Gomu no Mi before Luffy, and that's sort of like, you know, the inherited will. That's why Shanks had it. You know, I don't think Roger had the Gomu-Gomu no Mi, okay? I don't think he had that power. I don't think he even had a devil fruit, really. And also, even then, the timelines don't make sense, because Roger died 24 years ago, and Shanks mentioned they just got the fruit 12 years ago. You know, it doesn't make any sense. If Roger had the devil fruit, I feel like that would have been mentioned. Like, Luffy, you have the same devil fruit that Roger did. I feel like that would have been mentioned by now. Then again, I also feel like if the world government, you know, if the Gomu-Gomu no Mi was this important, and they know Luffy has it, you'd feel like Luffy's first bounty would have been way higher than this, right? Because it's like, oh shit, Luffy's got it. All we have to do is kill him and get it back, right? So they knew, you know, at the end of East Blue that after he defeated Krieg and Kuro and Arlong and Buggy and everybody, he had rubber powers. So you think his first bounty would have been higher. Even if they didn't know at that point, after defeating Crocodile, they certainly had to. At some point, the world government had to have been like, this kid has the freaking Gomu-Gomu no Mi. That thing that was really important to us, that we would throw our top agent into jail because he couldn't safeguard. Bounty, 1 billion, East Blue arc. You know, unless the world government does not want people to know it's that important. Now it's like I said, I have to do a video about this because there's so many different ideas, but the world government doesn't want to make it think like it's too important. I wonder. I'd like to know some other ideas below, because this is a very, very important thing to the world government. Like, they sent freaking their Rob Lucci of the day to protect this, and severely punished him when he could not. Alright, and at some point there, Who's Who joined up with Kaido's crew, and he's like, screw this, I'm going to be a pirate, and he did, and he's like, this works out for me, I'm pretty happy where I'm at right now, but that damn devil fruit. Maybe it has nothing to do with the devil fruit's power, rather than it has something to do with the previous user of it, okay? And it might have not have been Roger. What if it was somebody on Rox's crew? Because we have no idea. Let's say it was somewhere in the East, it got reincarnated, and Cypher Pole found it. They got it from where it was at, like whatever tree it was on, they got it, and then while they were traveling back, that's when Shanks attacked, and then they got it, and then Luffy ate it at the bar. What if the reason that the Red Hair crew were having that party at Fuchsia Village was because, yeah, we got the Gomu-Gomu no Mi, woo, yeah, we messed up their top CP9 agent, yeah. Might have been. Might have freaking been. But yeah, it could have been sitting there in the East Blue for years, decades maybe. If the devil fruits get reincarnated anywhere in the world, could have been. Anyway, let me know in the comments down below. We'll talk about this later. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking and Barry. Oh, and also the Barry plushies are still on sale until July 3rd, so follow the link down below and get yourself a Barry plushie if you have not already. And yeah, Gomu-Gomu no Mi, the secret therein. Later, everybody.